One of the many constants of human culture is the idea of the superhuman, those who possess powers far greater than mortal men. For centuries, mankind has dreamed of and shared stories of these highly capable individuals, from the Mesopotamian tales of Gilgamesh and Enkidu, to America's own Paul Bunyan, to modern icons like Iron Man and Batman. However, two of the most iconic heroes ever produced by human storytellers are the ancient Greek Hercules, sometimes called Heracles, and the modern Superman. By comparing and contrasting the backstories, abilities, and actions of these two heroes, the traits valued by the ancient Greeks and modern civilizations are also made clear. All great stories start at the beginning, and the origin points of both Hercules and Superman reflect the curiosities humans felt about their natural world. The ancient Greeks observed a polytheistic religion, with most of the natural happenings in the world attributed to the work of many gods. According to Columbia Electronic Encyclopedia, the backstory of Hercules is no different, stating, Alcmene made love to both Zeus and her husband on the same night and bore two sons, Hercules, the son of Zeus, and Iphicles, the son of Amphitryon. This divine origin point suggests that the ancient Greeks highly valued association with the gods, and in particular Zeus, who is said to be the king of the gods. The fact that Hercules' greatest feats are genetically the product of a relationship to Zeus also speaks to how Hercules was revered, as this makes him essentially the prince of the Olympians. By contrast, Superman also comes from supernatural beginnings, both similar and different to his ancient predecessor. In Action Comics number 1, it's stated that, as a distant planet was destroyed by old age, a scientist placed his infant son within a hastily devised spaceship, launching it toward Earth. On paper, these are very different origin stories, and you'd be hard-pressed to find anyone who says that Mount Olympus and the planet Krypton are anything alike. Consider that both heroes come from the sky, civilizations far beyond anything mankind could dream of, cities that towered into the heavens, the home of gods in one, but the home of aliens in another. Hercules is the product of mortals interacting with their unknown, and the divinity that controls the natural world, which was relevant to the budding explorations of the ancient Greeks. Superman, on the other hand, reflects a more advanced society, one that has a better grasp on their natural world due to centuries of scientific discovery, but still finds itself fascinated by things it cannot explain, such as the idea of life on other worlds. Both Hercules and Superman are powerful beings who have origin points in great worlds beyond our own, highlighting the fascination of both ancient Greek and modern society with exploring the unknown, making it natural that they would dream of champions who come from these fantastical places. Another important element to discuss when it comes to comparing these two figures are their abilities. They both come from supernatural points of origin, and thanks to this, Hercules and Superman possess natural powers far greater than regular humans. Hercules was gifted with immense natural strength, highlighted during his story when facing the Nemean lion, which is said to be invulnerable to all weapons until Hercules, in his first labor, strangled it with his bare hands. To defeat a creature said to be invincible with only his natural strength speaks to how powerful Hercules was, and similar feats are recorded throughout the rest of his 12 labors, such as when he fought the Hydra. By contrast, Superman is also said to be much more powerful than the average man, with Action Comics number 1 specifying, when maturity was reached, he discovered he could easily hurdle a 20-story building, raise tremendous weights, run faster than an express train, and that nothing less than a bursting shell could penetrate his skin. These feats are all very impressive, and while Superman would go on to receive many more powers in subsequent years, like flight, heat vision, etc., these base-level abilities still represent the attitude each society felt towards their respective champions. Both Superman and Hercules possess mounting physical strength, demonstrating that both ancient Greek and modern society idealized their heroes as physically powerful. However, Hercules' great strength is his defining power, which signals that ancient Greeks believed this ability was the answer to a mortal's perceived weaknesses, during a time when the greatest weapons were swords and arrows, or when the deadliest monsters people could conceive of were ones that existed naturally in the world, like lions or snakes. Superman, on the other hand, possesses multiple powers, even in the beginning, which sets him apart from his ancient counterpart. What this suggests is that there were more obstacles to contend with by the 1930s, with superhuman speed and agility also being facets of Superman's toolkit. With the advent of modern technologies, Superman had to be more powerful than the ancients could have imagined, able to jump over skyscrapers and survive the damage inflicted by more modern weaponry. Which is a trend that continues even to this day, as the many powers Superman has developed since his inception could be seen as a response to the other perceived dangers of a growing modern society. Superman and Hercules both possess powers that serve as an answer to the perceived dangers faced by each society, emphasizing that both ancient Greece and a more modern society both value power. But Superman's extra abilities also suggest that modern humans feel they have more to contend with and be afraid of than the ancient Greeks did. However, potentially more important than either their origins or their abilities are their actions. While Hercules and Superman are both much more powerful than the average man, the things that they do with those powers speak to values cherished by ancient Greece and modern man. Hercules is depicted as a far more flawed individual, with one article stating, "Heracles was praised and admired for his civilizing labors, but his violence and the transgressive nature of his heroism were also an issue." While Hercules was indeed respected, he was violent and aggressive in his acts, which suggests that the ancient Greeks valued a hero who was just as susceptible to those negative emotions as they were, to see the mortal in a god. This is also true of Superman, though accomplished in a very different way. Darwin Cook in Tim Sale's story Superman Kryptonite depicts the hero at one of his most vulnerable stages, first pondering his own mortality with thoughts such as, "I appear to be invulnerable, but am I? Or is it just a matter of time before I find the thing that can kill me?" Superman, much like all people, has to contend with the idea that he can die, that in spite of everything that makes him super, eventually he will meet his ultimate ending. In the same story, Superman is also forced to deal with perhaps the most deliberating human fear, loneliness. In issue 3 of Cook and Sale's series, Superman is depicted sitting depressed and alone with a polar bear after being broken up with by longtime flame Lois Lane, in which the hero states, "Are you lonely, boy? Yeah, me too." Superman is forced to contend with the idea that he's in the minority, that there are so few people on Earth who can understand him, and he feels crippled by this idea of being alone, especially in a situation where being Superman is exactly what prevents him from staying with the woman he loves. This loneliness and anxiety speaks to the internalized fears of modern man, while rage and violence are characterized as the major flaws of ancient Greek society. To expand on this, in his tale, Hercules is eventually driven insane by Hera, and in his madness, he killed his wife and children. To pay for the deed, Hercules performed 12 arduous labors. These 12 labors are where most of Hercules' great feats and heroic deeds come from, and they represent the idea that the ancient Greeks likely valued the concept of redemption, which is to say that misdeeds can be made up for by altruistic actions. That isn't to say modern society doesn't value redemption, but Superman's altruistic deeds are performed out of the kindness of his own heart and the values instilled in him. In Mark Waid's Superman Birthright, Lois Lane states, "All evidence indicates that you're a good man here to help," which highlights the idea that modern society values goodness without a motivator. To be a hero, one must help others and show kindness without needing a reason to, simply because it's right. These different depictions of why Hercules and Superman do what they do demonstrates the differences in how action was perceived by the Greeks and by our modern society, as well as how the reasons why they act explain the differences in personal values each people's revered. In conclusion, there is a lot to be learned about the history of heroism and its perception from the characterizations of Hercules and Superman. Their origins, abilities, and calls to action each illustrate what ancient Greek culture and modern society deems important qualities in a hero, and using them as archetypes for the two respective cultures demonstrates what values are held in common, as well as what has changed over the centuries.